Bambi had no intention of sleeping. It was like walking through shattered glass in high heels the night after the lounge brawl. Each and every little cut was made by a step forward, yet halting would just highlight the bleeding. She saw hashtags appear on her phone, transforming her name into a storm, and shut her eyes in time for the subsequent clap of thunder. A direct message from a burner account that included a 7-second video with the following description. She pressed play without breathing when he remarked, "You should see it first." The video's room was dark. A gentle triangle of light is carved over wrinkled linens by a motel lighting, and there was no mistaking the laughing. Erica Dixon's witty, irresponsible chuckle, followed by the quiet, private whisper of a different lady who wasn't a gossip. She was a wife, whom Bambi had stood up for and standing next to in green rooms and participating in group discussions. She was able to identify shadows and the way a whisper hovers too near a lips without needing to see faces. Not guilty. The implication thundered loud enough to rock glass, yet the tape stopped before anything specific was spoken. Bambi. Once the wallpaper seemed to be static, they gazed at the wall. Then she simultaneously grasped for her spine and her robe. She wanted to know whether this was retaliation, who gave them the rifle and who squeezed the trigger. Across town, in a studio that smelled like fresh excuses and old smoke, Scrappy was awake. When he wished to be forgotten, he had a certain expression. Put on a low hoodie and speak in a tone that makes you question your rage. As if a mirror might later testify, he informed his image, "I didn't post it. I just did not prevent it." His phone vibrated with texts once again, from those who, until he was trending, never checked on him. Before he found a name that made the room tilt, he scrolled past warnings and phony sorrow. Mendez. It was a brief message. You will create adversaries you cannot see. When Scrappy spotted foes, he grinned. He was never afraid. He was kept awake by those who grinned as they filled the clip. He established a private folder that had been in his cloud for years and that could either rewrite or kill life by hovering a thumb over thumbnails. He avoided touching the posts. In a members-only discussion that he no longer had authority over, he just observed the timer on a second clip countdown that was set to auto-drop. With her face washed clean and her face shining in the wrong light, Erica looked as if she had just surfaced from a week-long submersion. The words, "It's not what it looks like," which she had previously sent several times, seemed like cardboard to her. The video was old, after a private party where too much wine was kissed by too much trust, and before a reunion. She was familiar with the ring, the lady in the picture, and her secrets. Armor was intended to be on her finger. The background, the preceding disagreement, the subsequent breakdown, and the decision to remain silent since the truth is costly would never be seen on the internet, more than the deception could possibly do. Like a mediator between herself and the world, Erica placed her phone on the table and called the one person she vowed to never make another call. The stillness was sharp until Bambi responded. Erica whispered, "This is not what you think." Bambi didn't speak louder. She didn't have to. Tasha K said, "Then say what it is." Because certain nights are worth more than rest, I didn't sleep. Like the rising figures on a stock ticker, she scrolled through her own conversation. Subscribers are demanding the entire cut, and comments are demanding blood. She was charged with fabricating stories and stirring pots that weren't even on stoves. She didn't need spice tonight, however. The ingredients were boiling already. A second clip was sent to her by a source. 15 seconds. A whisper, the same hotel bulb, and a different viewpoint that turned the internet into a court. Before typing the headline, she tasted it and chose a thumbnail that had just enough blur to avoid it. The teeth of a lawyer. She told her empty. Office. They fight on camera, but they confess off it. VH1 Saturday. The air was thick enough to drink in a meeting room in New York. On a wall, a looping clip flickered like a fire that nobody wanted to extinguish. Exposure risk, stated legal. Optics management, stated PR. The showrunner remained silent until the audience relaxed enough to hear him grin. It is not touched by us. We should build around it, he determined. The audience will make the final decision. He was telling the truth. He just refused to acknowledge that the oldest television ploy is letting the viewers make the decision. Similarly, if you don't strike it yourself, Giving someone a match and pouring gasoline isn't really arson. Bambi didn't talk while driving. Heartbeats of red lights pulsed over her dashboard. She wasn't in tears. She had done it on video once and discovered the effects of the internet on bleeding ladies. She was taking measurements. Who was willing to profit? Who was at risk of burning? Who was motivated and who had access, disguised as compassion? She waited for a single photographer to get the ideal moment when she was parked outside a courtroom. Bambi wearing a chilly coat, holding documents under her arm, and the kind of sunglasses that leave one guessing. She let them estimate if your eyes were a wound or a weapon. It's less expensive than informing them. By midday, everyone was attempting to spend the leaked footage, which had turned into cash. Friends sent a text message. Prayers are rejections. Think pieces on loyalty and the sinister arithmetic of reality TV were written by strangers. A pastor put a passage from the Bible on temptation under a picture of strangers. Mendez uploaded white text on a black screen. Check your friends after your adversary is aware of your secrets. Yandi didn't make any posts. There is a sound to silence, when your audience has been taught to hear noise. The second clip was released, in the middle of the day, although it was to a paywalled room rather than the general public. Before spilling onto the street, it lasted for 20 minutes. The whisper was more audible, the laughing louder, and the angle more ugly. No one must be aware. Anything that might violate a platform's regulations was still shut off before it could happen. However, it also broke something else. Bambi was certain the lady next to Erica had once been a friend. In her kitchen, Bambi remained still until the refrigerator's low. It sounded like cheers. After that, she contacted her attorney and said something so composed that it made her feel afraid. Include a new NDAs were extracted from the defendant. Scrappy seemed to be a guy who had come to confess and lingered to be persuaded when he eventually went live. He did not deny gathering, nor did he confess to leaking. He related a scenario concerning mid-season ratings manipulation and how well-lit betrayal seems more realistic. He said that he was sick of playing the bad guy in other people's stories and that sometimes the truth required a touch assist in being noticed. Fans said in the comments, "Judge, jury, and executioner in exchange for the price of admission." Concluded the live broadcast with a shrug disguised as a lecture. Ask why the truth hurt? Erica's stomach dropped as she saw the figures rise. Worse than a clip, she had survived. This was a two-edged dagger, but she'd endured seasons. One for her ex-marriage, one for the connections she believed she could maintain. When she called Bambi again, the quiet was filled with tiredness rather than a sword. "We could kill the people who keep aiming at each other if we don't kill each other," she remarked. Bambi refused to answer. She didn't refuse. At twilight, a third storm formed, and she replied, "Bring the receipts that clear you. I'll bring the ones that bury them." Just before the soundstage lights turn off the camera. Tasha K received a single, nameless text message from a producer. Find out who made the hotel reservation. The whole scenario abruptly changed. From love to hatred, but then from hate to motivation. The room was chosen by someone. The angle was chosen by someone. When the light would be on, someone knew. Bambi arrived to what seemed to be a legal firm. Apologies were kept in a museum by wealthy people. She positioned a pile of emails on a mahogany surface and indicated 3 strings that included terms used by a junior producer. They seemed innocuous until they weren't. Off-grid communication, private reset, no cameras, just mending. On calendar, invitations that were tied, she highlighted the timestamps. To the hotel night months ago and the lounge showdown. If you stopped acting, 2 locations on a map would create a straight line. They didn't. The lawyer glanced, nodded, and grabbed. A pen as if it were a weapon. "We won't dispute morality," he said. "We'll debate profit and consent." Bambi grinned glumly. "The remarks are for good morals. Consequences are why I arrived." Erica sat with a lady who didn't flinch in a different building with different artwork on the walls. When well-known names fell apart. She told the version that wasn't intended for viewing while putting her phone face down. The battle she had been tricked. The buddy who kissed away her tears as if there were restrictions attached to comfort. The ring on the finger of that buddy who vowed to enforce limits that were never hers. With caution, Erica said, "I didn't cheat with a spouse. When a lady informed me she was already alone, I messed up. The beauty of loneliness would never be seen by the general population. Triangles are important to the public because they provide better visuals. In a paired garage, Scrappy met a producer who crafted their voices. Did their voices reverberate like phantoms? The producer had a panicky, cologne-like scent. He vowed that we didn't reveal anything, which, technically speaking, that could have been true, but not spiritually. He discussed contracts and how each party forfeits their right to be startled. He discussed how villains are just heroes who were left out of the cut and how stories don't develop on their own. Not for the internet, but for courtrooms where purpose is valued and tone is assessed, Scrappy heard and recorded. The producer's words, "We Scrappy didn't nod," needed the lounge moment to pivot the season. "So, you constructed a cliff and sold tickets," he added. Tasha K. didn't squander the suggestion after taking it. Instead of playing the video, she said, "Who made the hotel reservation?" With a date that matched the whisper that now lived Rentree in a million ways, she shared photos of a corporate card, used for a talent overflow room. She red-circled a name that wasn't even a producer. It was a married cast wife's helper. She stated enough to make Google searches trend for a lady who had posted worship, but she refrained from mentioning the wife's name since doing so would turn the comment area into a battlefield. Lyrics in the morning and the day's clothes in the afternoon. Timing and truth were never compatible. Mendes made the decision to give up being evasive and opt for controlled clarity. He sat in a vehicle with his mouth angled like a judgment and remarked, "You guys call it a cheating man. Pattern. You guys call it a plan when women cheat, but sometimes it's neither, and other times it's a setup so someone else may be compensated." He didn't have to bring up Yandandi. He created 1,000 conspiracies and unintentionally included a few true facts in his remarks, which did the trick for him. He concluded with "When a room is reserved for you, inquire as to who receives the receipt." Bambi and Erica met and they exchanged paperwork and didn't embrace at an area without cameras and with an inside door that closed. Bambi slipped over emails in which a handler said, "Catharsis, line them up." Erica is the producer of Fight with Feelings. "My husband already knows," the married pal stated in a messaging thread. This might indicate truthfulness or a deception, intended to alleviate a "I don't believe you," Bambi said, reading and letting out a sound that didn't sound like relief, but did sound like it from a distance. "But I believe them less," she remarked. Erica nodded. Alliance isn't always only a hierarchy of mistrust. When given a constant diet of smoke, the internet did what it does. It discovered fire in areas that missed fires raging in broad fields, and had none. A fan account provided a frame-by-frame analysis demonstrating that a guy was the source of the shadow in the corner. Subsequently removed it once it was shown to be a lampshade by another person. Because denial is intoxicating when you adore your heroes, a blogger argued that the footage was artificial intelligence. A second verse was provided by a clergyman. Finally breaking the ice, Yandandi shared a tale that said, "Don't allow enemies write your prayers." Depending on whether you felt attacked or seen, it might have been trivial or significant. Legal letters started to circulate. Like pigeons, they are frightening in flocks but not hazardous on their own. VH1 used the term community in a message, on respect and decency. Accountability once, like a garnish, and 3 times. Bambi requested an emergency injunction to prevent a future rather than to erase a past she was unable to. Edit from devouring her. The thunderous notice of intent that Erica filed served as a warning that if you sell a woman her worst night back, she may send the bill to another location if she is satisfied. Scrappy went live once again that evening, this time with a flushed face after working out. Calm logic. He accused the Flames of being too theatrical after claiming to have seen the program create narrative out of ashes. He said that he was done being used as a weapon. Additionally, he stated something that caused the screen to freeze completely. Inquire I learned about the video via Bambi. It wasn't an allegation to start. A grenade had been rolled under a door that was closed. The as Scrappy gazed into the camera like a guy who had finally concluded that his art was too costly to rent, comments exploded. When Bambi heard it, she didn't recoil, something you can only get by surviving those who want to see you suffer. "We move now," she wrote in a single text to Erica. Moving required strategy, not quickness. Relocating required them to meet with a network, where they entered independently and departed with a shared desire. A sit-down program hosted by an impartial moderator. NDAs were momentarily suspended in a room with 2 ratings by between the actors and the production. There was mutual agreement and a mediator. No one could frighten a referee. Until the attorneys pointed out how costly laughing may be, the network laughed. A context slip was hinted at by Tasha K. Not the before and after, but more closeness. The hotel check-in included a guy whose hand lingered in that strange area between proprietary and helpful, and a lady with a cap pulled low. Faces blurred as a producer informed a PA in a backstage hallway. "If they don't give us a moment, we'll create one." Timeline straight, voices changed. Additionally, she assured me that it will arrive on Friday at 8 p.m. This is either fate or effective advertising. Friday arrived without warning. The drop landed exactly on the second hand and started with a spreadsheet that had dates, hotels, vehicle services, and other legitimate business line items that ended in the words overflow, hospitality, skill, and well-being. The next video wasn't explicit. It was ordinary. An exchange of key cards, 2 glasses, a room service card, and a slowly closing door. The papers held the power. A card for aid, a by the end of the hour, a message field that said keep discreet was misspelled into a confession, and the signature could be matched to selfies. The internet wasn't unified. Enraged, but it was changed. It asked questions that no one ever considered answering. It recognized something. The possibility that the chaos you love may be positioned there like landscape has long been hypothesized, but seldom shown. Bambi's jaw was so tight it might cut as she stared. Diamonds. Erica seen with a kind of rage that is too preoccupied with plotting to shout. Scrappy observed and looked exhausted at last. A black SUV was idling outside a place where individuals go to stop acting that night. Bambi, as well as Erica, entered and took a seat across from a mediator who had steely stance and kind eyes. For just 1 minute, they were courteous. After that, Erica responded, "If I'm your story, stop acting like you own me. If I'm your villain, at least pay me like one." The mediator gave a nod as if the gospel had just been delivered correctly in a church. "We'll make 3 requests," she said. "Editorial review, back compensation for episodes that were based on your suffering, and the freedom to refuse without facing consequences." Erica and Bambi exchanged a gaze that wasn't one of friendliness but may eventually be considered respect. "And one more," Bambi said, her eyes razor-shocked and glassy. "We gave the individual who made the hotel reservation a name." The mediator remained expressionless. 4, that is. "Come on, let's win them." Due to the fact that Fear is an excellent project manager, a neutral stage, a moderator with receipts, and infamous for having an equal hatred for everyone. Additionally, 2 seats had greater significance than any throne. Erica and Bambi standing next to each other without smiling or touching, and carrying binders that had been christened via group talks and blessed by lawyers. The footage wasn't the subject of the original query. The system was at issue. "When you 2 bleed, who benefits?" the moderator inquired. Bambi was the first to respond. "Individuals who didn't know our names until they were in need of them." Erica completed it. Additionally, those who act as if empathy is a camera, they played the 7-second angle. They didn't play the 15 after that. Now, monetization safe was a need rather than a suggestion. Rather, they displayed the spreadsheet once again. The assistant of a married cast wife, whose name had not yet been spoken out loud, signed off. Who reserved the room was the moderator's straight question. Erica took a dive-like breath and remained underwater for 4 beats. "It wasn't me," she said. "And it wasn't Bambi. Rather, it was a woman who informed me that she was beyond being